Monday, February 16th. I'm Adam Walsh, and this is The Signal. Today on the show, we are talking about brain injuries and concussions, from symptoms to getting a diagnosis, treatments, rehab, living with a brain injury, and supports that are needed. So through the discussion, we've got three great guests in here, and then through this discussion today, if you want to share your experience, right? If you've been living with a brain injury, or if there's something you're not sure about. Now, no medical diagnoses over the air or anything, but general conversational stuff, you're invited, obviously, to be part of it. So you can text us 709-327-8206, the signal at cbc.ca for emails. 709-722-7111 or 1-800-563-8255 for calls. Nick Mercer is here, writer and creator of Concussion Talk and the Concussion Talk Podcast. Sir, how you doing?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Good. Tell folks about the podcast first, because this is how I me and you got in touch. Yeah. I knew about it. I was looking at it. I was like, let's do a show.
Yeah. Well, I started in 2015, and I was doing a blog before that, from 2010 to 2015, and I just wanted to try a new medium, really. Just get out there and try to actually, more selfishly, I wanted to just talk to people. Seemed a bit bored, like writing articles about myself. Yeah. But so I just wanted to learn stuff. Like learn by talking to doctors and physios and researchers. Just learn about. Even if it's not brain injury, just something, just learn.
Connect with folks, right?
Yeah, you connect. Yeah, good point. Yeah, exactly. So I just want to do that, and so I've been doing that since I was doing it 2015 until 2023, I guess. Really, I was doing been hard of the pandemic time. I did a lot then, but the past year and a half, I've been focusing mostly on the seaweed farm that I'm working with.
You're working with Teasdale, right?
Yeah. With Teasdale, yeah.
All right, excellent. So we're going to dig into this and all about Concussion Talk and yourself and your story. We've got Jen Smith here as well, former Vice President of the NL Brain Injury Association. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for inviting me to the talk today.
Yeah, no, thank you for coming in. And we also have a neurologist, because if we're going to have this discussion, it's great to have a doctor here. So Dr. Abayomi Ogunyemi is here. Sir, how are you?
I'm fine. Thank you very much. And thanks for inviting me to this.
Yeah. Can we just, for a definition-wise, I'm saying today we're talking about concussions and brain injuries. What's the difference? What should people know about the difference if we talk about a traumatic brain injury, TBI, or if we talk about a concussion? What are the differences there, and what's the definition of one?
The definition of concussion strictly is when there is loss of consciousness from brain injury, but there is no pathology that can be demonstrated in the brain. That will be the main definition of concussion.
Okay. Yeah, go on. I'm sorry.
In other words, if one could find damage like hemorrhage or contusion in the brain, then that will not amount to concussion. Concussion means that the patient loses consciousness at the time of the injury, but all the tests will turn out normal.
So, Dr. Ogunyemi, for yourself, I mean, you're a neurologist. You teach it. You've been a doctor here for decades. What's the range from patients that you've seen over the years? Because for instance, I grew up playing rugby. Lots of people I knew, myself included, have had head injuries from that sport growing up. I know from hockey, but also like bike riding, and then car accidents. What's the range that you've seen for patients over the years?
Over the years, you're quite right. If we start with children, they get head injuries mainly because of falls when they fall.
Yeah.
As they get older, the head injury comes from sports. The sports that are most likely to result in head injury will be sports like football, or hockey, lacrosse, and as they get further, the elderly or the older patients, their injuries is mainly from falls, because their balance, they begin to have difficulties with balance, and therefore they fall. And then, so those will be what the population, that will be how head injury will result in the population. But there are people who will have fall because of seizures. There will be people who will fall because of disturbance, unsteadiness when they walk. So there are a whole variety of reasons why people will develop head injuries.
Yeah. So, like, if, for instance, if you have epilepsy and you have a seizure, which is also one of your specialties, right, for epilepsy.
That's right. Patients fall is not uncommon in people with epilepsy, although the majority of patients with seizures do not fall, but the big seizures, which we call grand mal, will generally cause people to fall down. So we might talk about the special groups who will fall, and seizures will be one. So we may eventually talk about those.
Okay. Can I ask you something, too? I'm just curious. As a neurologist, we're talking about sports and accidents and these types of things. Are we getting any better at protecting our heads? Because I think when I grew up in the 80s, I don't think we were great at it. Like, I remember the discussion over whether or not you should, like, for kids wearing bike helmets. Yeah, and that was a thing of the 80s. It's like, oh, no. One day came mom and dad were like, no, you have to wear a bike helmet. Like, this is the thing. And it's like, well, I mean, last week I didn't. So are we better now than we used to be decades ago? What do you think?
In terms of preventing head injuries, we're not a whole lot better. It's still use of helmets, but and of course, with vehicles, people now use seatbelt. It helps with head injuries that could result from road traffic accidents. But otherwise, there's not a lot. We depend on the rigid bone of the skull to protect the brain.
So we depend on the rigid bone of the skull to protect the brain. And how protective is that?
The brain is well protected by the bone, and that has been a source of difficulty with making neurological diagnoses, because in order to be sure about the diagnosis, you have to do something about the skull. Whereas when it comes to diseases of the abdomen or the chest, other parts of the body, doctors don't have surgeons don't have difficulty doing surgery on those areas. But making more accurate diagnosis has only been since 1974, 1975, when we were able to begin to use the CT scan of the brain.
Oh, right, when the CT scan came in, which is like one of those things that I started learning when I was watching the show House when I was younger. All right, so we've got the medical side of things with Dr. Ogunyemi here, and both with Jen and Nick. We'll hear about their lived experience, and I think it's like a dance from like lived experience and a little bit back towards medical advice and back and forth. And again, folks, if there's anything that sticks out to you that you want to know more about, or if this speaks to you, if this is a conversation or something that you've been living as well with whether it's from concussions, a traumatic brain injury, you or someone in your family, text us 709-327-8206, the signal at cbc.ca, and you can get in touch with us by phoning 709-722-7111, 1-800-563-8255. Jen, let's go with you first because, former VP of the NL Brain Injury Association. Tell us about yourself.
Certainly. So one of the things with the Newfoundland Labrador Brain Injury Association, I kind of stumbled into that.
Yeah.
I think one of their dinner and dances might have happened around my birthday, and that's where I met Nick. But so a bit about myself. I am a research engineer, but about 8 years ago, I guess I had my experience with brain injury. So let's see. Yeah. So it was the summertime. I was just about to go on vacation, and I was go-karting with friends and had an accident that caused whiplash to my neck. And I don't think I realized I had whiplash. I was a couple weeks out before it was like a Sunday, and I was starting to feel a little bit unwell and lost vision in one eye and had a very intense headache. My husband drove me to the hospital, and by the time I got to the hospital, in hindsight, I was starting to lose my ability to walk and whatnot. And so I think I had my stroke in Emerge. There was a kind woman that was kind of helping me through the automated doors. But yeah, so what happened was, I think, as they told me later, is I had dissected the vertebral arteries in my neck, and one of the clots had moved up to my cerebellum, and so I had a cerebellar stroke. And so that's what I've come to learn, because this is not my background. I came to learn that affects your executive processing and your mobility and all kinds of things. So, so that's what happened about 8 years ago. And I was in the hospital for a week, and I had an amazing medical team. I say that I had rock star treatment. And then I was in the LA Miller Center for outpatients for about 3 or 4 months, getting the physical rehabilitation and whatnot. Yeah.
From go-karting.
From go-karting, yeah. This is, if anyone were to talk to me, they'd be like, "That's very uncharacteristic of you." But yeah.
Yeah, because it just, it's one of those, I've never, ever thought, it's like, I don't know, those things you go and do, which anyone could go and do, never thinking about, like, I think I would think about more risk, and I could be completely wrong on this, but like, I would be more worried about me bike riding sometimes. And it's just one of those things that it shows life and how things that can happen.
So, anytime I hear about anyone in a car accident, I'm like, make sure you get your whiplash checked. But I think, part of it is that I had a very heavy helmet on, and I was you're not supposed to hit people and I got in a minor collision, and I had myself strapped in pretty tight, so it was like a sideways, like lateral movement.
Bobblehead.
Yeah. Anyway, but the thing about it is, these kind of things, they happen.
That's it.
They just
Exactly.
happen.
That's
Life
what I mean.
happens to you, and luckily I had just the right amount of people at the right amount of time to help me overcome that. Yeah.
All right, so let me go back to the doctor here, Dr. Ogunyemi, for what Jen's talking about, the whiplash side of it, from something that's, you walk into something like go-karting, it feels like a fairly, I know there's bumping and stuff, but just your thoughts on just her situation and you looking at your career of treating patients around whiplash and what it can lead to and that type of a thing.
Yeah, there are two arteries in the back of the neck that carry blood to the back of the brain, and these they travel through bones that are in the neck, and therefore they can readily get damaged by small impacts or twisting of the neck, moving of the neck. And when they get damaged, we call it dissection of the vertebral artery. And the patient may only have just headache, or they may not even have symptoms from the dissection. Fortunately, there are two arteries, and One might be able to, especially if it's a bigger one, it might be able to compensate for the blood supply. So there are many people who will have dissection of one artery and may not even know it. And if they have symptoms in the acute phase, they usually tend to improve substantially over time.
Yeah. So then if someone is in like let's say, some kind of a motor vehicle collision, I guess it's important to get checked out anyways, but like what's your thoughts around if someone's in some kind of a collision, like when it comes to getting checked out and risks when it comes to head injuries and just wondering about whiplash and everything else, or to have something happen like with what Jen was describing?
The doctors, if the patient does not have symptoms, and the doctor may be able to pick up some signs that will indicate that there's something going on, and after that the patient will be investigated. But it is possible that there will be a delay between the time that the injury occurs or the whiplash occurs, and when there will be symptoms from the vertebral artery, because the vertebral artery, eventually there will be what we call thrombosis. In other words, clotting. It is when the blood clots and therefore blood flow can no longer get to the brain. That's when the patient will become symptomatic. And that could take some time after following the injury or whiplash.
Right. So this is why it's important to kind of pay attention to your body, and if you start to feel differently, you might have to go and get checked out, right? Nick, I'm looking at, let me see, Concussion Talk. It's about Concussion Talk, your podcast. It says, my name is Nick Mercer. In January 2003, I decided to take a break from playing water polo and give triathlon a try. So you did that. And then in August in Victoria, BC, what happened?
I was cycling. I'll let you know because you were there. And at the time, there were a bunch of forest fires.
I was in Victoria. Yeah, we were in Victoria the exact same time. Yeah, I was there for the Navy, and you were there doing triathlon stuff.
There was a bunch of us doing masters, public administration, but and doing triathlon. Yeah, but there were a bunch of forest fires, so we usually swam at the lake every Friday, maybe more than just Friday, but whatever. And we had to do different. Our swim was canceled because of the fires. Yeah. So we went, but every Friday, 4 or 5 of us would go on a bike ride, and we had to take a different route this time because of the forest fires. Luckily, we went near the hospital, but I don't remember the bike ride at all. Huh. But I was taken on the route after like 2 years later. And I was going downhill, I guess, but obviously pretty fast. I mean, I was a pretty good cyclist, but I'd done only a year, but enough cycling that I was a pretty good cyclist. And I was going probably 70, but I had a helmet on. I was wearing my helmet, but I swerved wide on the going downhill. And so I crossed the road. There's no cars, but there was somebody cycling coming up the hill. And I swerved to avoid them. And when I swerved, I flew off my bike and hit a tree with the head and helmet first. And I broke my helmet. And then I was unconscious from then on for 2 weeks. So I was in a coma.
So you awoke. So your bike. So 03. Victoria, BC, cycling, training for a triathlon. You swerve, you hit helmet on, yes, but if you're doing, doing speed, right, you're not going slow. Yeah. You hit a tree, and you wake up 2 weeks later.
2 weeks later.
And when did you get what do you remember first? Do you remember waking up, or is it something later?
I did wake up. I know I'll go just by being here. But
we know you woke up.
But when it was, I don't know. I don't remember. I think it was as it was 2 weeks. I had epidural hematoma,
Yeah.
which Dr. Ogunyemi can tell you about.
Yeah.
When I was unconscious, when I was in a coma, and my sister and my parents were there.
Yeah.
All my friends from UVic were there.
Yeah.
And and I don't remember. I know I had to get physio. I couldn't walk for. I didn't walk. I didn't take my first steps from August 1st until December. I don't know, mid-December, December 15th ever. But I couldn't, and I was still double vision. My speech is obviously a bit more distorted, and I even though I had a lot of great speech therapy, but there's so much you can do. Obviously on my left side, my whole left side was not really weak. It was weak then, obviously, but I mean, it was not, as I've kind of learned, it's not really weak. It's more coordinated. I can control it. It doesn't like go wild or anything, but I'm not as good as exactly where I place my foot or exactly where I place my hand. That's gotten a lot better now. Now I'm probably pretty good at it, but that's for years. But still, but yeah. So there's no timeline. There's no timeline for when I know I came back to St. John's on September 11th of 2003.
Huh.
But August 1st till September 10th or 11th, I was in Victoria. So it's all I know.
That's all you know.
That's all. Yeah.
You also write in your post about your experience.
Yeah.
I was also very fortunate to keep my personality.
Yeah.
And have only some mobility affected.
Yeah.
For brain injuries, and actually I'll go to Dr. Ogunyemi on this, right? So we're talking we're talking loss of memory, but then Nick's writing, very fortunate to keep my personality. Can you tell folks about what can happen with memory loss and also changes in personality?
The deficits or the consequence of brain injury will depend mainly on the mechanism, what happened to the brain at the time of the event. In the case, in Nick's case, for instance, and there could be other types of injuries, but in Nick's case, where he was going downhill, he will and had an accident where he stopped, or he was stopped, and his helmet broke in two. That will mean the mechanism of his brain injury is what we call acceleration, deceleration. So in that case, when going down, the fluid in the brain, the skull will go first, and then the fluid in the brain has a greater velocity than the brain itself. So the fluid will pull in the front of the brain, and so when Nick will suddenly stop, the injury will affect mainly the back of the brain, which is the cerebellum, because the fluid that will have protected that part of the brain will have moved forward. So Nick will not have what we call coup injury, which is the impact injury, because of the help from the fluid. But where the fluid has flowed forwards, and when it suddenly stops, there will be deceleration injury to the back of the brain and the cerebellum. And that is where the function of coordination of movement of the limbs, and coordination of speech, and that's why that will explain why Nick will have issues, slurring of speech or distorted speech, and difficulty in controlling the left side of the body. It will mean that the left cerebellum is mostly impacted. Secondly, Nick told us that he had epidural hematoma. It must mean that after he crashed into the tree and he will have fallen to the left side, and the left temporal lobe, there is an artery that supplies the covering of the brain, which we call middle meningeal artery. And that will easily rupture and cause epidural or extradural hematoma. And that sometimes can be quite dangerous. The patient may wake up after the accident and even speak for a short period, which is the period we call lucid interval. But after that, because it's an arterial bleeding, the doctors know that they have to quickly make a diagnosis and remove the blood clots because it can be otherwise very dangerous.
Well, because it's quicker, right?
It's arterial blood rather than venous blood.
Yeah.
And you said you woke up, apparently you were speaking French or something, wasn't it?
Yeah. So that's too out. I was I'd done French immersion, late French immersion, and never taught about for 3 years. Well, that was after my injury, so forget that. But I did do late French immersion, so I did know some a good bit of French. But yeah, I've heard stories of people even in England and stuff, waking up and speaking like Japanese or something totally different that they're not used to. Have you ever seen that? Have you ever seen anybody speaking a different language or like when they wake up from the coma?
After coma, I haven't seen that personally, but I have a patient who came from Japan. This was when I was a resident in the 70s. Came from Japan and had encephalitis. And when the encephalitis improved, the patient could no longer speak Japanese. He could only speak English.
Really?
That's the experience I have with language.
And encephalitis, is that a brain swelling?
It's brain infection with swelling, and so it took some time before she was treated and recovered from that. But when she recovered immediately, she could no longer speak Spanish. She was speaking English, even though she had been in Canada for only a few years.
Yeah, wow.
So you get these switches. That must have been, for you to be newer in your career and to run into that, that must have been fairly, interesting to kind of run into and try to kind of figure it out and just to even observe it as you're trying to treat a patient.
Yes, you're quite right, because I became a doctor in 1975, and this was around 1978, 79. So it was. I found it very amazing that that could happen. That someone will lose their speech, will lose their language, and speak a language that was foreign to them.
Yeah, like wild. Here's a note we got. Like most local lawyers, before retirement, I did personal injury work. I learned how symptoms of trauma can take a surprising amount of time to surface. A rule in my practice was not to discuss financial settlement for at least 6 months post-accident. That's from David Moores, who listens to this show. Doc, just your thoughts on that. Because on the legal side, you have lawyers saying, they wait for 6 months to look at a settlement just because sometimes it can take so much time before, the full, I guess, from symptoms to trauma and then the full impacts are known. Just what about timelines sometimes because this speaks a little bit to what, Jen, for what you're saying too as well.
In terms of the symptoms, there are symptoms that will occur immediately, but there are other symptoms, there are complications or secondary effects that could happen from the accident. And even 6 months may not be sufficient.
Wow.
For instance, it may take much longer to recognize the personality changes that may occur. Patients may develop seizures from the accident, and that often takes some time. It may take months or even a few years before the seizures will develop. So there are a number of consequences that will occur from the head injury that will not be immediate, may take some time before they develop.
Jen, I'm curious about yourself then. When it came to like rehab, just what was that process like for you? Because having friends who've gone through different types of rehab, it's different for everyone, and everyone kind of wrestles with it in different ways.
Yeah. So I think my experience, I was really like transfixed on like the skills I needed to get back to I was partway through my PhD, so I was looking for the skills to get back to work. But I was also incredibly anxious because you had talked about knowing your body and sensing whether or not you're feeling well enough to go see a doctor if you have something wrong. After my stroke, I was hyper aware of anything and everything.
Yeah. Okay.
So I would be probably every Monday almost at Emerge with the latest discovery of the new experience, right? So the physical rehabilitation was largely focused on, because I had damaged my neck, so I needed to not aggravate that. So I was on a weight restriction, and I was learning how to, because my stroke affected my left side. So I was learning how to walk and balance again, and how to get like better grip strength on my left side. So a lot of the Miller Center rehab focused on that side of things. So the physical therapy, the occupational therapy. I was learning how to type again. I had to learn how to like move my neck so I could learn how to drive again. So all that was happening over that 4-month period. But I think the parts that I wasn't aware of in that 4 months, because I did go back to work shortly after that, was just the sort of more invisible things. So I have like a permanent ringing in my ears.
So like tinnitus or tinnitus? Or
yeah, I have a photosensitivity, very easily irritable, and having like unable to manage my emotions in the same way. So I have no poker face anymore. If anyone knows that they've excited or upset me, it's like written all over my face. So it's like those are the things that I had to start to learn how to navigate. So that kind of experience was somewhat isolating, because you're just trying to protect yourself from these noisy environments, from these day-to-day activities, and you kind of close yourself off a little bit. So yeah, it was a journey. It was certainly a journey. And I think one of the things, and one of the reasons why I found Nick and the Brain Injury Association was, in my circumstance, my husband became my primary caregiver. Yeah. So he was a teacher, and he stopped teaching for that period of time and was caring for me until I was able to kind of get back on my feet. And so part of the thing that the reason why I reached out to the Brain Injury Association was that I see the supports, I see the focus on the patient, but there are so many other people at play that sort of need support, and I was trying to find avenues for kind of peer support, I guess. Yeah.
Well, oftentimes when I talk to folks on the show, things come down to, if no matter what it is, right? If it's someone needing some kind of an assistance, and if it's anything from medical side of things or whatever else, then all of a sudden you start to hear about, okay, well then it's the spouse who's kind of helping out, or some kind of a network of, maybe it's their folks or a sibling or that kind of a thing, and it kind of ripples out from there. And then you start to realize, of all these folks involved, it's like, okay, the person who's trying to recover from something needs this assistant, but then the caregiver needs its assistance as well. And then everyone can feel isolated. And this is where peer-to-peer support is so important. And also just knowing you're not alone as you're trying to get through to things. And then you're having a bigger discussion around the healthcare system that is going through its own evolution and change with deficits and efforts to fill holes and everything else with the health accord and that whole push.
Absolutely. Yeah. So one of the things I've noticed, though, in having been connected to this organization is that there's a lot of people trying to move the needle on like just a national strategy for brain injury. And there's each province has their own board. In our circumstance, we just didn't have the funding, and fundraising became a huge challenge for us. But yeah, there's a lot of people working on this problem, not just from the medical side or the community side, but just across Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that must be a bit heartening, like to know once you discover that, and you know, like through the discovery, it's like, okay, there's work happening.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, it was. I mean, it's never nice to hear about more people that are in that having some sort of brain injury affecting their lives, but it is reassuring to see that there are people seeing the seriousness of it and trying to bring it forward as a things that they should be addressing.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you're like, well, in the perfect world, no one would have a brain injury, but at the same time, if we look at the reality of sports and driving and everything else, it's happening. So realizing it's there and seeing people in the space doing what they can and trying to push things forward is important.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things, like everyone's journey is very different. And one of the things when we were trying to go through what are the things we wanted to do as goals for working in this field was trying to find the thing that I guess people are most needing education on, and I think that's where the concussion piece came in. That's I mean, in our particular cases, perhaps our stories are a bit unique, but concussion seems like it's something everyone has, perhaps knows someone or exposure to, right? So that's sort of why we were.
There's definitely a deficit of understanding. Sorry, keep moving away from the mic.
It's okay.
But there's a deficit of understanding, just in general about because every brain injury is, as you hear a million times, and we have that every brain injury is unique. But that really affects how much people understand about brain injury, because they can say, "Oh, I had a brain injury, so I can't walk very well." They're like, okay, well, I know Jimmy had a brain injury and he walks fine. He's fine, but his memory is gone or whatever. It's like, okay. And I know, Stephanie, she had a brain injury, she can't hear or something like that. So it's all different. It's all different things, and there's no one you can find.
No, everyone's going to go through something different. So the commonality is everyone's had a brain injury.
Yeah,
but each person, right? Like you said, it could be hearing deficits, it could be walking deficits, it could be memory, it can be, as we talked earlier with Dr. Ogunyemi too, like pointing out, it could be personality sides of it. Yeah. I mean, this is the range, but the commonality is it's all some form of brain injury.
Exactly.
Fatigue is a big part that cuts across things, though, doesn't it?
Cuts across our two things.
Yeah, I think fatigue. I don't know why I didn't lead with fatigue, because that is probably the biggest one. In the early days and then throughout, you kind of just learn how to manage it. But the mind gets tired very easily, very quickly, and you have to kind of plan your day kind of around where you're going to expend that energy.
So Dr. Ogunyemi, when we talk about fatigue and brain injuries, what are things you've heard from patients and for the understanding of what may happen sometimes when it comes to fatigue after a brain injury?
Fatigue is quite common in neurological conditions. So patients with brain injury, patients with multiple sclerosis, patients with Parkinson's disease and stroke, they all suffer from fatigue. Perhaps one of the things we should understand is that the brain expends a lot of energy relative to the rest of the body. The brain of an adult only weighs 1,500 grams. But the blood flow to the brain is about 20% of the entire blood flow to the whole body, so that the brain expends a lot of energy. And so when part of the brain is damaged, it cannot perform the function effectively. It utilizes extra energy to perform what would be seamless action or movement. And therefore, there will be fatigue from the extra energy that they need to use for normal day movement and normal day actions.
So this describes why, right? Some of these feelings. Because I remember the talk around COVID and like brain fog. That I know the feeling of, and it felt so strange and different to me because I was like, oh, is this what people were talking about? So like for yourselves with the brain, with fatigue, that's not a fog. Is it just because I know what physical tired is, and every so often I think back, for example, if I spend time speaking French, I feel my brain gets tired because my brain's like, no, stop. Can you just speak the language you're used to speaking as opposed to this other one? What's it like for you with brain fatigue then?
Well, I have it. It's gotten a lot better over the almost 23 years now.
Yeah.
So it's gotten better with time, but it just like Dan was saying, it's just mentally, your brain doesn't get fired. You don't like necessarily have this ability with your cognitive functions, but you do just get. Your brain just gets tired, not necessarily sleepy tired, but you just want to just sit down or just and even like standing up, which may also be another orthostatic thing. But I know like just like standing up or moving your arms just is more tiring. Just in general, just not necessarily just thinking, but your whole body, like everything with your body. You control by the brain, so so you just gotta.
So anything you're doing,
just makes you just tired and general, overall, but not sleep. Yeah, I don't find sleep anyway. I keep away from the mic, but I'm not. I don't find myself being necessarily more sleepy, but just tired, just
tired, worn down. And from function.
just like.
But it's got, like you said, it's gotten better over the years.
A lot better. Yeah,
right.
Well, I mean, acutely it was. Really tough.
Back in post accident, early.
So in my case, I feel like I turned into like a bit of a nan. So I have to be in bed at a certain time in order to have the right energy for the next day.
Yeah.
But everyone's different, right? Fatigue for me, my friends and family will be able to spot it because I will maybe be a little bit more hearing sensitive or smell sensitive or irritable, let's say, or you can physically start to see it in my face that my eyes, like I physically start to look tired. So I think everyone's different, but the thing about it is that it's sort of something you have to manage. It certainly does get better over time.
Yeah.
So then... when it comes to advice for folks, right? Because we've talked about your podcast, we've talked about the Brain Injury Association, we're talking the medical side of things. What's some advice for people who, if they're going through their own journey with a brain injury, and just kind of like the road ahead? Like if you're in rehab and you're looking ahead, what's some advice you have for people?
The easiest advice probably ever is just patience. And it's gonna. I mean, it's so hard to hear. I know for me, it was definitely hard to hear. I thought I'd be better by. I remember saying to friends I'd be running by May. This was in like November, ever, and I still can't walk. I can't walk. I still couldn't walk by May, and I can't run now. I can't run or jump now. But I mean, so I was thinking that in 5 months I'd be fine.
You'd be fine.
And and even 5 months for a lot of people, it is enough time. But for not every brain injury, as you said, the same. But just patience. I mean, I wish there was a better way, but there's better answer, but all I can think of is just patience. Just it'll get time heals kind of thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is what I've been getting. When you were talking about your path, right? When we go back to August of 2003, and you mentioned a couple of weeks in a coma, waking up, not being able to take your first steps until December of that year, right? And then looking ahead as you keep, moving along with your rehab. Patience sounds like a very important bit to try to have there.
I mean, I wish there was a better answer than
I think it's a great
patience.
Answer.
But it's great for us, but for people going through it, it's a bit rough to hear.
When you're in the thick of it, right?
So don't worry, because I don't know what people are going through, what their challenges are. So I can't say the same thing. It comes back to the whole every range is unique thing, because I can't say, just concentrate on this, because maybe there's their memory or their mind, their cognitive function that's disturbed, or maybe they don't need help. Maybe they have no problem walking either. Just so there's no one tip except for patience. Yeah. Just know that time heals heal.
Jen, what about yourself?
So I think recognizing again that, like Nick said, everyone's journey is different. So in our particular cases, I think that just the time that has passed has given us a little bit more of like the certainty that they're like where things are going forward. But some people maybe don't have clear diagnostics of what's going on. So there's a lot of uncertainty. So part of, I think, the advice that I'd be giving to people is that it's related to the patience part, is that there is, your path is going to be unique, but there are people there that are there to support you. And some days you might not want certain levels of support, but the people will be patient and they'll be around as you go through these kind of roller coaster. I think it's a roller coaster of recovery. So,
Dr. Ogunyemi, what types of advice do you give patients? Because as we've been talking about, all these, every brain injury being different, things, the range of what folks can be experiencing and whether or not they have a support network and what kinds of help they need and how long they may be in rehab. I mean, it's vast. What are the things you tell patients for when they're looking down recovery and trying to figure out how they're going to, be?
Yeah, I think what's important is exactly what Nick has mentioned, patience. I tell when I'm talking to patients and giving them advice, I tell them that if somebody has a cut in the skin, it will take maybe 5 to 6 days. The scar will form and it will heal. If it is the bone that is cracked in a fracture, it will take weeks or a couple of months to heal. But if it is the brain, it will take months to years to heal. So the brain is one that heals at the lowest pace, or the nervous system in general heals as the slowest in terms of time, but it will be gradual, and so one needs patience, especially when the nervous system is affected.
Yeah, patience, as hard as that can be when you're in the middle of it, but it's still that reminder of advice. Yeah, we have a late question coming. I don't think we've got 1 minute to the Olympic update. I don't think we can get to it. I can't even read it in time because all the words are too big. All right, everyone. That's it for today. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming in for this discussion, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for inviting us. Thank you.
And Doc, you're teaching, or is it teaching or patients this afternoon? Which is it? Teaching?
I will see patients when I get back, and I may have 2 hours teaching session.
Okay, all of it. Okay. All right, folks, thank you so much. That is it for the show today. If you have thoughts for us, thesignal@cbc.ca. Coming up tomorrow on the show, we are going to talk with folks with the Doula Collective of Newfoundland and Labrador. You'll hear about these trained non-medical professionals who offer continuous emotional, physical, and informational support to expectant parents before, during, and after childbirth. That's tomorrow. Thanks for listening. Cheers.